Hey guys, it's Icy Dice, and today I wanted to make a video about censorship within writing. Now, when I talk about that, I'm referencing the question that's very popular, that being, are there some topics that should not be written about? And I want to make it very clear that my answer is no. And the reason my answer is no is because I think that question itself is flawed. I don't think it's a question of what topics should or should not be written about. I think it's a topic of how do we approach these topics and what approaches should we not write? For example, I think it is perfectly okay to write about terrorist extremism. And I think that the correct approach to go when it comes to that topic is a very critical analysis of it. Maybe you write a character study about a person who's lived in horrible living conditions, who is susceptible to extremism, and you break down how their giving in to extremist ideologies breaks them down as people and breaks down their relationships with others. That, I believe, is acceptable. What is not acceptable is to write an uncritical piece on extremism in which you endorse it, or write a story in which extremism is portrayed as some kind of power fantasy that one relishes in and glorified in that sense. And you can apply that logic to pretty much any topic, no matter how taboo, in my mind. And so, no, I don't think there are topics that shouldn't be written about. But I do think that there are topics that require certain, just, you know, how do you even say it? Just certain mindsets to write about, You have to be in the mindset to address them in a proper way. And that means that for some topics, there is a responsibility that authors and readers share when it comes to writing about and interacting with those topics. You, as a writer, if you want to explore something that could be potentially offensive or triggering to a great many people, you have a responsibility to educate yourself about that topic and to write about it in such a way that makes that clear. And you, as a reader, have a responsibility to be willing to digest that information and that writing in a way that might challenge your preconceived notions about it. I mean, what's the alternative, really? That people just uncritically write about whatever they want, no matter how potentially offensive or taboo? That readers go into a work and just read it and don't even think about it, really, and don't even challenge any of their own beliefs, or don't even give pause as to what the truth of the matter is? I think that's a terrible world. And I think that that world would be the byproduct of us not being willing to entertain certain topics. If we're not willing to entertain them in a critical way, then guess what? Other people will be willing to entertain them in a non critical way. And I think that's far worse. And so, in that sense, we really need to have people who are willing to write about things that are gross, for lack of a better term. Um, and I'm sure that you can imagine what topics those might be. Or maybe they're even topics that you don't want to imagine, because that's how disturbing and vile they are. And yet, if there aren't people willing to write about them, that will take the time to research them, take the time to explore the nuances of them, take the time to explore what those topics mean to the people who are affected by them, then that topic cannot be represented in a productive way. And so it will only ever be represented in a non productive way. And no progress will ever be made towards bettering the world, really, because that's what it's about. It's about bettering the world. Because if you're going to write about such things, you're no longer just writing for entertainment. I think you've taken on a much stronger burden than that, you know? You don't choose to write about certain things for entertainment, because if you only wanted to write for entertainment, you would choose something less profoundly impactful and meaningful, right? You wouldn't write about the effects of PTSD or war for entertainment's sake. And if you're doing that, then you're doing a disservice to those things and to the world and to the people who experience those things. And so you've taken on a burden that you must fulfill. And fulfilling it is not easy. And so if you're not willing to put in the work to fulfill it, then don't do it. And if you as a reader are not going to put in the critical thinking and the work to read those things with an open mind and with understanding, then don't read them. Because a story, the author is not the only one interacting with the story, it's also the reader. And the reader's interpretation is arguably the most important thing. How they interpret a work will dictate how that work has impact on the world and what that impact is. And so, when it comes to these things, no, there are no topics that are out of bounds. But there are ways of approaching those topics, both from the reader and from the author, that are out of bounds. I think that's the answer to that question. At least that's my answer. But if you have a different answer, please comment it below. I want to hear it. And if you do put down a different answer to mine, that's okay. We can talk about it. So yeah, that's the video for you guys. I'm Icy Dice. My channel is all about horror and writing, and some other forms of media. And if you'd like to, you can leave a like down below, and you can subscribe to me. And I will see you in the next video.